A resilient man. Resilience, that's the theme of today's video. And the idea here is that doesn't matter how um, pretty you might look or how useful you might be, it's really important to have strength mentally, psychologically, that ability to absorb all that comes your way and to endure, to bounce back. The idea of being resilient. I feel like this is a word that has been bandied about in recent years, particularly in first world contexts, and for good reason. For good reason. People in developed and first world countries, young people, somewhat puzzlingly or paradoxically, are lacking that resilience. I have a theory that explains this, and I also have some potential avenues to remedy this. Not all the answers, but perhaps some areas worth looking into. My theory is that our minds become calibrated to our environments. For example, if you were a person, a child, even an adult, living and breathing war, facing starvation, poverty, insecurity, violence, political turmoil, daily threats to your safety, then you become more resilient. Your mind doesn't sweat over little things because understandably you're more focused on staying alive, quite literally, surviving. And so I feel that people in those developing countries, war torn countries, highly unstable countries, in some respects have an order of magnitude more resilience than people outside of those places and spaces could ever imagine. That lived experience, that daily assault on your senses, that constant threat for survival is hard to replicate. You could read a heart wrenching news article, listen to a story, watch a video, but that's no substitute for the real thing. So, why does this matter? It matters because think the reverse is true, in that developed countries, stable societies, relatively safe communities lull our minds into a different sense of comfort and security. We become calibrated to a completely different spectrum of threats and stresses. The feeling of distress and uncomfortableness is real, but the calibration is out of proportion. For example, if you're living in a developed country and your car broke down on the way to work, perhaps you lost your job, perhaps you had an argument with your girlfriend or spouse, that is hardly immediately life-threatening, yet your mind may process that otherwise. You may think that it's the end of the world, that you can't go on living. So the threshold for what constitutes realistic stress is distorted. You're not facing a barrage of bullets or bombs, or having no dinner, no roof over your head, being assaulted on your walk around the neighborhood. Yet your reaction to these seemingly trivial first world problems feel as though you are in that sort of situation. So ultimately, I feel that people are just less resilient in safer places, paradoxically. I think if you conducted a social experiment, you could prove this. Transplant people from those developing war-torn countries into peaceful, stable, safe countries, and I'm sure they would feel very pleased about having all their basic needs for living being met and no longer having a threat to their survival. Transplant, on the other hand, a suit and tie wearing first worlder, or a school kid, mind you, to one of those war-ravaged, unstable, tumultuous countries, regions, and I truly wonder how those first worlders would survive their first day without giving up, buckling altogether. Not that anyone would want to give up their safe, stable first world communities, but how can we build resilience short of facing bullets and bombs and starvation? I think the mind is pretty clever, so it is difficult to equate people living in completely different circumstances. However, I think that we can build some resilience by stepping outside of our comfort zones. And that doesn't necessarily mean leaving your own country, although being well travelled and having perspective matters. It matters quite a lot when you know that you've actually got it pretty good, that there are worse places to be living and working and existing. That does matter enormously. But it's not the only way to build resilience. I posit that there are many ways that you can build resilience. For instance, if you're not a particularly sporty person, then throwing yourself into a sport can help push you outside your comfort zone. Even if you are a sporty person, say used to being on a field or a court or a gym, something outside your comfort zone might be the greater outdoors. A multi-day hike, for instance, or a new activity that you're not familiar with. Taking up cycling, playing a different sport. Something that you're not used to. If you're very comfortable with sports and being outdoors, then stepping outside your comfort zone might be associating yourself, socializing with new and different people. It might be reading a book. It might be engaging in a hobby or field that is a little bit different to normal. It might be that stepping out your comfort zone means going camping and bringing yourself back down to some more minimalist necessities. It might be challenging yourself to cook and eat for an extra day or two with seemingly nothing in the pantry. There are a myriad of ways to step outside your comfort zone, to gently poke and prod, or more forcefully poke and prod, your mind and body into understanding the full spectrum of what your comfort levels are, and to remind your mind and body what discomfort may be. I think the natural tendency is for that comfort zone to shrink and contract, and to counter that, you need to expand, being comfortable in areas that seemed uncomfortable. So it's an active process to fight that tendency to become too complacent and comfortable. It's an active process. Now, obviously, if we take that to the full extension, people in those war-torn countries have a extraordinarily large comfort zone, whereby crime or war or starvation or humiliation become normalized, and that may not be the best thing either, that everything seems normal when it isn't. But there is a middle ground between normalizing inhumane, brutal, miserable conditions and normalizing a very comfortable, cushy, safe, first world lifestyle and community. There is a middle ground. It just takes effort and practice and time and awareness and support and knowledge. To be clear, I'm not discounting entirely the legitimacy of people feeling depressed or anxious or stressed or overwhelmed, but I do certainly think that those feelings and reactions are disproportionate. So the feelings are real, but the magnitude of those feelings, the magnitude of those reactions are disproportionate. So, in summary, it's important to become resilient, even though we, you, I, may live in a very comfortable, stable society, community, home. But that resilience, isn't going to grow by itself. In fact, it's going to wither and shrink and contract. So we all need to actively pursue ways of recalibrating that zone of normality and comfort, recalibrate what triggers stress and distress, and in doing so, maintain, if not build, resilience. The resilient man.